are back to the museum, and Scott's gonna do the Jayne Mansfield death car explanation.
You know, 67. And Jayne was in Biloxi, Mississippi, and she was performing at the Gus Stevens Supper Club. And she had two shows that night. She was traveling with her boyfriend Sam Brody and her three of her 5 children. Mariska, who was 3, who you know from Law and Order. Mickey Jr., who has the plant store over on Fountain in La Brea, and Zoltan, who works at Paramount Studios. So anyway, she did 2 shows that night and had to do an appearance in New Orleans the next day for television. And Gus Stevens, something happened with a car. They bought a car that day, but the check bounced. So anyway, the owner of the nightclub lent him his car, actually his wife's car. So Jayne, this was not her car. She was just traveling in it. So it was 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning that they left Biloxi towards New Orleans, and Gus Stevens' daughter was dating a guy named Ronnie Harrison, and he asked Ronnie Harrison to drive them to New Orleans and bring them back the next day. They're going to stay the night. So Ronnie was 19. Ronnie was well rested. Ronnie was completely sober, so there was nothing like that going on. Ronnie was behind the wheel, Sam Brody in the middle, Jayne here on the passenger side, and the 3 kids sleeping in the back. So Ronnie had done the trip a million times. He knew the route because his girlfriend went to school in New Orleans. So he'd driven back and forth about an hour and a half, we'll say. So that night, there was no fog in the air. There was no mosquito truck. That's one of those urban legends. There was a mosquito truck in the distance, okay, and it had a red flashing light, but it wasn't spraying anything at the time. But there was a semi in front of this car, probably a mile in front of this car, that had slowed when he saw those red flashing lights. So he slowed to about 20 or 30 miles an hour. This guy was going 70, and this is, you know, in the middle of the night. So it was a long curve, and the best that they can figure is that Ronnie was distracted by the red flashing light as well. So he was looking off in that direction and didn't see the car that was going 30, the truck that was going 30 in front of him. So this went straight onto the truck, going 70 miles an hour, never touched their brakes. It sheared this car straight back like a sardine can. If you look closely at this, you can see the exact corner of the truck right there. So it went straight under. So Jayne was right here, and you can see how she died of the head injury, just right here. Now she wasn't decapitated like a lot of people think. She was scalped. The top of her head was taken off. The other 2 in the front seat hit the glove box, or hit the dashboard, and they died instantly too. And the 3 kids in the back were sort of fine. Mickey had a broken arm and a leg. Mariska still has a scar on her head from the accident. I think Zoltan was fine. And so the driver of the truck felt the impact, and but it was a semi, so it wasn't a huge, like, he didn't, you know, he was just like, wow, what was that? So by the time he stopped, it was about 20 or 30 yards up. So when he got out, and this is in the middle of nowhere, you know, it still is the middle of nowhere. And, you know, there's no light from anything, there's no street lights or anything, and all he heard was kids screaming. So he had to walk over to the car. He couldn't get the door open to let the kids out, so he had to open this door and pull Jayne out and lay her on the side of the road and grab the kids and bring them out. The others were obviously dead. And luckily a passing motorist took the kids to New Orleans to a hospital. And then he just waited there for the authorities to show up. But there's a picture here that is down here. Let me just peek the corner from the back of the truck right there. So when people, you ever hear she was decapitated, what they saw was this picture. And you can see her wig on the dashboard. So the top of her head was taken off. But it was her wig here. Now, I don't know how gruesome you want to get. 6 people in the car, there were 5 dogs that were not kenneled. So imagine 6 people and dogs jumping around inside the car. So this is one of them, the dogs that died. And if you look at this photograph, these bottles were full, they were not opened, they were still sealed. That's her scalp right there, and that is her brain. And me was one of them. But these seats they're like paper. They are so old. So it looks like the upholstery is perfect, but it's actually just, if you touched it, your finger goes straight through it. Now it's because of this accident that the National Department of Transportation made it a law that trucks have to put this bar underneath their car now. So this is a Department of Transportation bar, but its nickname is the Mansfield bar. And it's because, so cars cannot go underneath a truck now. And it's because of this accident.
destroyed his